This bill will mandate that your credit card must be processed by companies that do not exist today, because Visa and MasterCard have invented, they have perfected, and they protect your credit card. But they would have to turn over their technology to a company that does not exist to process the transaction of your credit card from the Visa or MasterCard network. Think about, Larry, how ludicrous what I just said was.
No doubt you've heard me mention the Electronic Payments Coalition. They're the ones who are engaged in the fight right now over the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This is the bill that, if passed and signed into law, will basically eliminate credit card rewards, all those rewards that we enjoy, that we utilize, that we've grown accustomed to, that are working. So, of course, Congress wants to come in and break it. Well, let's bring in the leader of the fight there, Richard Hunt, tip of the spear on this important and vital fight in the Senate. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Larry, good day to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish we didn't have to keep talking about this. I wish it would go away, but it's still lingering. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill, I personally, I don't want to drag you into partisan politics. I don't expect a whole lot from Dick Durbin, but I know Senator Marshall. He's a pretty good man. Why are they doing this? What are they thinking?
Yeah, look, we're very disappointed in both Senators Durbin and Senator Marshall. Obviously, Senator Marshall, a Republican from Kansas, usually anti-government mandate type of senator. Not in this case. He has teamed up not only with Dick Durbin, but also now the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Department of Transportation to try to lower the transaction costs for Kroger and Amazon and, say, Walmart. The big merchants are the ones who are driving this bill. Look, Larry, we don't like how much we have to pay for a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk. But, you get a great benefit and a great service when both the merchant and the consumer uses their credit card. There aren't many things we feel more confident about than when we use our credit card. That's going to be safe, is going to be secure. The merchant gets automatic payment. We get to have our good or product delivered to us right away. And yes, we get a benefit called reward miles, reward points for many people. Some people use those miles to see their loved ones, but the vast majority of people use those rewards for cash back, especially around back to school time and also around the holidays in December. But we saw what happened, Larry, in 2010 when Senator Durbin did this to debit cards. You may remember the day, Larry, on debit cards, you had reward points. Guess what happened in 2010 when the United States government, because of Dick Durbin, lowered this interchange price? Goodbye, adios, say goodbye to your reward points. Yeah. Now they're trying to do to the credit card what they did to the debit card. But Larry, look, this has gone on too long now. Now, because they can't get it passed in Congress, they turn to Joe Biden and his administration and the government agencies. And today and next week, there will now be a hearing at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to investigate reward points. So they have now what I call jumped the shark. You may remember that phrase. Since they can't win in Congress, now they're going to the administration.
You mentioned, first of all, I do know a lot of the stuff that you just laid out there and about what happened with the debit card bill, because I've been to handsoffmyrewards.com, really informative website that you've set up. You mentioned the Department of Transportation. What business is it of the Department of Transportation about how credit cards are transacted at a grocery store or at a big box store? This is obviously in some way targeting the airline industry. What is that all about?
So, Larry, I'm from Louisiana, and we think we play pretty dirty when it comes to politics. But Chicago and Illinois, they beat the heck out of us. So as soon as Dick Durbin saw that his two major airlines that he used to praise lavishly were opposed to his bill, he turned his sights on them. We call it the Durbin-Marshall Political Retribution Tour of 2024. We always hear about these stories, how privileged senators use their power to go after their so-called enemies. This is exactly what happened. As soon as United and American and some other airlines came out publicly in opposition to this bill, he turned on them. So he's taken his Chicago-style politics to Washington, D.C. I've never seen a United States senator, or both of them, because Roger Marshall was in bed with them. I've never seen two politicians like this turn their fire on American companies just because they oppose them.
So it's the Chicago way, right? From the
It is.
Untouchables. David Mamet is writing this script, except David Mamet's a good guy. Well, listen, we know how we're going to be affected. You take away our rewards, you take away our cash back, you take away our airline miles. That's devastating for the way we live our lives right now and what we've been counting on. How is this going to affect the airline industry? It's not an industry that can take a lot of hits right now.
Yeah, not too long ago, all the airports in South Carolina wrote a letter to their senators, Graham and Tim Scott, saying if this bill were to pass, it would affect airline travel to all the 5 major airports in South Carolina. And that is happening across the country. Some 15 million people, Larry, just last year used miles to travel. So that may be to travel for the holidays, to see loved ones, to take a vacation, family emergencies happen. But not only do you fly, obviously, but you rent cars, you stay at hotels, and you go eat out at restaurants. The restaurants complain a lot about how much they have to pay in credit card services, benefits. But I tell you what, Larry, if this bill passed, their fees will come down because you know what? Less people will eat out. A lot of Americans eat out these days because of loyalty, reward points. That's a way to create loyalty and attractive to the restaurants. That would have a huge effect on the entire industry in this country.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, and I can speak from personal experience because I am into these rewards that I get from my credit card. When it's time to make even basic purchases, let alone a big ticket purchase, I'll go through the special website for shopping online that my credit card has set up to maximize those points. I get extra bonuses when I buy through their portal. This is a thing that people do. So I'm just curious exactly how does this work? For those who haven't been to handsoffmyrewards.com, why does the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill directly affect consumers and our rewards? People maybe aren't putting two and two together about how this thing that they claim is about fees for credit card transactions at the store. How does that then affect my rewards?
Yeah, Larry, excellent point. So you go back to 2010, as we talked about. What happened then is the United States government dictated how much we could charge for providing a service. I talked about my gallon of gas, my gallon of milk. I would like it to be lower as well, but I don't want the government telling companies how much they can charge for their product. That's what happens in this bill. This bill will mandate that your credit card must be processed by companies that do not exist today because Visa and MasterCard have invented, they have perfected, and they protect your credit card. But they would have to turn over their technology to a company that does not exist to process the transaction of your credit card from the Visa or MasterCard network. Think about, Larry, how ludicrous what I just said was. Why doesn't Coca-Cola turn over their secret formula to Pepsi? That's what this would entail. So people would get less revenue, the payment companies would get less revenue. They're going to have to cut costs somewhere, just like they did in 2010. And one of those, entities that will go away or significantly be reduced would be your reward points. No doubt about it. If you reduce revenue, you got to cut expenses somewhere. And this is what would happen.
Listen, Richard, I want people to educate themselves on this, but I also want them to sort of know both sides of the argument just so they can make up their own mind. I trust the American people. I trust citizens to be able to hear this stuff. So according to the proponents of the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill, that this is going to take away our rewards, they claim that ultimately this is in service of the consumer. They claim that the American people and consumers, they're going to benefit from this. But flesh that out for me here. How are they wrong?
So when they said the same thing in 2010, they said they would take the savings from the new interchange rate and they would rebate that back to the consumer in the form of lower prices. But we've had two major studies, one from the Federal Reserve Board of Richmond, who said that did not happen, that they kept the money. Home Depot said in their earnings report in 2013, the CFO said this. She said, we're going to make some $30 million off of lower interchange prices. Home Depot kept the money. Then recently, the Congressional Research Service, which is the mother of all independent research in the United States and in Washington, D.C., and who Congress relies on, said there's no evidence that consumers would get any type of reduction based upon the interchange reduction. It's just a big deal for Walmart and Amazon to lower their interchange rates and be able to keep the money. Look, had they returned the money in 2010 like they said they would, I would not be here because this bill probably would have passed by now. but they kept the money, Larry.
That sounds like the classic bait and switch, man. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pass this. We're going to save this money. We'll pass it on to you. Then they pass it. They save the money and they keep it. That's literally a bait and switch. So,
and what's worse, Larry, is they're coming back for more.
Well, sure. It worked the first time, right? I mean,
yes.
Why Dillinger kept going to the banks. That's where the money is.
That's where the money is, right?
Richard,
right.
What real fast, because you just suggested that they already know how unpopular this is, I think partly because we've been drawing attention to it. So now they're trying to get this unelected bureaucracy to just sort of do it through mandates instead of actually voting on it. Well, that's a squirrely way. And again, you put the words government mandate into the same sentence, and it's just a failure. It never works out well for us. So what's this next step for them, and how can we stop it?
Yeah, so look, they're going to the CFPB. And what's interesting about this, Larry, Senator Marshall despises the CFPB until when? It was to his benefit. Then all of a sudden, he said, hey, CFPB, we need your help now, although he thought they were unconstitutional. So look, they tried to pass a law. Senators said no. But don't get me wrong, Larry, they're still trying to again. They're about to try on the FAA bill that's coming up for debate this week. They're going to try again on the National Defense Authorization Act, which comes out in probably 2 months. So while they can't win there yet, they're going to go to the United States government executive branch. And that's what they're trying to do with the CFPB and Department of Transportation. So look, we're fighting a two-pronged war now, Congress and the administration. Hands off myrewards.com. We've had over some 3 million letters sent to the United States Congress. Now we're trying to also look at the administration to make sure they do not touch your rewards as well, or the government mandates. So look, your data is paramount to you. When you swipe that card, you have faith that Visa and MasterCard and all of our banks in this country and credit unions are going to have the mechanisms that are safe and secure. This bill, if it passes, it's to save a few cents on each transaction for Amazon and Home Depot and Walmart. They don't care about your security like the rest of America does.
Boy, outrageous. And isn't it so ironic? They're going to the CFPB, as you mentioned. People don't know what that is. That's Elizabeth Warren's brainchild. She came up with it back when she was, even before she was a senator. This was all her idea. And of course, it's all about the people and it's a populist thing. And who are they benefiting? Walmart and Amazon. It's outrageous. Yeah. Well, listen, I love that we're working together to try to bring awareness to people so that they know what is going on and just how insidious it is. And one more time, just to send the final message here. Where do you want people to go so that they can do something about this? They can actually notify their own senator to make sure they know how unhappy they are.
Yeah, your senators and your members of the House of Representatives. Hands off myrewards.com. Hands off myrewards.com. Don't let Congress take your rewards from you. Look, when politicians choose, Americans lose.
Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate you fighting this fight on this one. All the government mandates that we all hate, you're actually fighting them for us, and we appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Larry.